everybody. This is Ethan here with the Hello Road podcast. My co-host Paul is here. Hey, Paul.
Hello.
And we also have a special guest. The third time he's been on the show, Mr. Bradley Brownell.
Mr. Three-Peat.
Yes, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so it's 2021. I almost said it was 2020 because I have no idea what's going on. It's 2021.
Yes. March 350th.
Yes, it's December 33rd.
Yes,
whatever.
33rd.
But it's 2021. I feel like everybody's still kind of, the year changing kind of maybe didn't make people all that optimistic, but I still feel like there's some shreds of optimism kind of floating in the air. I think people are starting to see maybe a light at the end of the tunnel, even though COVID is worse than it's ever been.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's possible, but it does seem like there's a little bit of optimism happening.
Gotta believe in science,
Yes, exactly.
Or at least hope that the right people are in science.
Yes.
There you go.
But speaking of optimism, I think that's something that we can talk about for our topic today. Brad, you've been working on this idea. Actually, I don't know how long you've been working on this idea, but
I know exactly when it started. I know the date.
Okay. You know the date. Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So this is a project that Brad has kind of roped me into helping him out with and being part of the team. So I'm pretty excited about this. So let's talk about Autopia 2099. What is this all about? It sounds like it's from the future, but it's from the past too.
Is that game that came out that everybody's complaining it's so buggy and everything?
Yes.
It's the sequel to that.
The sequel to okay, cool.
Yeah,
Is it going to have all the bugs in it?
No.
Yes.
Hopefully not.
What you said
Hopefully
yes,
not.
and you said no.
Yeah, well,
shit.
I'll be working on the marketing for this, so it's possible there'll be some bugs in the marketing.
All right.
So it all kind of started because I had this idea to write about electric cars. I've been bitten by the electric car bug probably for a couple of years now. Influenced by the Southern California hot rod scene. There's a lot of people down there that are turning, doing Tesla swaps and crazy stuff and going really fast. So that kind of turned me on to it. I've always been a hot rodder, and I just love this sense of it's the 1950s all over again, and we're just sticking big motors into small cars and going really fast.
Yeah.
So that kind of really drove me into investigating the electric scene. And then for my day job, writing for Jalopnik, among other places, I've had the opportunity to test a few electric cars and motorcycles. And by virtue of that, fell in love with them because they're quick, they're fun, they're fast. Especially electric bikes. It just makes so much sense.
I can't even imagine. Bikes are already super, super quick, but
yeah,
that's got to be nuts.
I've got the Harley Livewire is one of my favorite bikes. I wish it wasn't quite so expensive, but man, it's a blast.
I can imagine.
So anyway, that kind of drew me into the EV scene. So I had this idea to go fossil fuel free for an entire month and set that up for December. So I just ended a month of no gas, no natural gas heating the house, or all of our appliances are electric, all that. So I've done my best to get fully electrified in December, and I did this probably not very well advised road trip on the Livewire from Los Angeles to Reno, where I live. And that's 500-ish miles, probably closer to 600.
Yeah.
And it went not great, but I had troubles with my first charge. And then from then on, it was smooth sailing. It was perfectly reliable. Everything was fine. It was a problem with me because I wasn't familiar with how many miles I could get out of a charge. So once I figured that out, once I troubleshot that the hard way, it was totally smooth sailing. So I was on that trip.
You're able to find enough charging spots at the right locations.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And to the bike's credit, there was plenty of charging spots that I passed on the way to the one where I didn't quite make it. So it wasn't the infrastructure's fault. It wasn't the bike's fault. It was totally my fault. So I'll say that again and again and again until the day I die, because everybody read that and was like, oh, well, the charging infrastructure is not ready and there's no way I would go electric.
Guess you can't buy an electric bike.
Yeah.
You really screwed it up for everybody, didn't you?
I kind of did. Yeah. I feel bad about that. So I especially feel bad to Harley because it's a really, really good bike. Again, I wish it was a little bit less money. It's almost $30,000. So it's like,
yeah,
it's pricey, but I mean, Harleys are pricey. So that's kind of the name of the game. But anyway, so I had basically 2 days of riding on my own on the bike, on an electric bike. And I was like, this is a thing that needs a showcase. So it was just prior to December when I had the idea, when I was on my way home. And then I mulled it around in my head for a while. I think I told my wife maybe December 1st. And she was like, oh, yeah, that sounds cool. which is probably the right answer, because I have ideas every day. And how many of them are actually going to be something that I follow through with? Like 1 in 6,000.
Sure. And so, I'm also curious how many your wife says that's a really terrible idea. Or is she just very, very supportive in general of all of your ideas?
What would you say is my percentage of bad ideas that I tell you?
We're waiting for an answer.
A long pause.
Yes.
Is this a podcast answer?
Yeah.
Or a real
Yeah.
No, real answer.
You're live on the air now.
When I tell you an idea about cars or whatever, how often do you say, that's a terrible idea?
65.
65. That's
65%.
actually not that bad.
Not that bad.
Are
not
bad
that bad.
ideas. So more than half are bad.
That's, yeah.
At least not feasible. Okay. All right. So yeah, I tell her a lot of ideas, and
Sure.
most of them are probably above and beyond what I'm capable of. But so I had this idea for a car show, or electrified transportation show, because it's more than just cars, trucks, SUVs, motorcycles, mobility implements, whatever you want to call those. Yeah. So I had this idea, and the first person that I told that was outside of this household was on December 4th. That was when I made it like a real thing, I guess.
Sure.
Like I spoke it into the world. And that was kind of when I decided that I needed to get started on this. So I called up a bunch of friends and said, hey, you guys should do this. And Ethan one of them.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I'm happy to
Awesome.
and excited to be a part of it. And yeah, it's funny that we kind of came to this discussion because I had told you that I may have accidentally bought a crashed Nissan Leaf.
Oh, you didn't tell me it was crashed. I thought it was.
Or well, it's not. It was a little bit wrecked. It's not completely crashed, but it's a little bit messed up.
Oh, okay.
That it still hasn't gone through yet, but I think that was the spark of what made you think that I might be interested in this crazy venture.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yes. I mean, you had some questions about EV swaps and how Leafs work and that kind of stuff, and I don't know that I answered them fully, but yeah, it kind of got the gears turning, and I know you're, a good dude, so
I
figured
try to be. I'm occasionally decent.
the thing that I've always believed in is just surrounding yourself with the right people and stuff will get done. So yeah.
It's I think it's going to be pretty neat. So you had this idea, you had this electric motorcycle experience that kind of put you on this experience, put that in quotes, put you on this path. And so how did you kind of get to the next step of wanting to bring people together? Obviously, you're Radwood co-founder. You got a lot of experience doing events. What was sort of the impetus behind just doing an event for this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was something that I know kind of the ins and outs of, and I think it's a good opportunity to bring the enthusiasm for electric cars, which has kind of always been there. Like there's always been an underground electric community
for sure. Especially when you look at all those stuff from the 80s that all that stuff. Yep.
And especially in Southern California, which is the right place to hold this show, I think. It's always kind of been there, just bubbling under the surface, and we just need to like dig a little bit to let people know that it's okay to let that out.
It's okay to like. It's okay to like be an EV fanatic if you're not just into like Teslas or something.
Sure, right. Yeah, and I think that there's an opportunity to bring electric cars to people and make them more accessible to people by getting out there and showing them to maybe someone who's EV curious.
Yeah. Ooh, EV curious. I like that.
Yeah.
Phrase. Nice phrase.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple questions. So is it going to be like a web show, television show, a feature length movie?
It's going to be an in-person event. Okay. I know that's hard to believe after the year that we've had, but I think that by December of this year, things will be clear enough. I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful that things will be clear enough that we can gather in, somewhat large numbers again.
Sure.
I don't think I'm ever giving up my mask because I can't believe that we let people we don't know breathe on us every day. But
I'm totally down with you. I actually quite enjoy wearing a mask. I know it sounds weird, but after this is kind of all said and done, I think I'm just going to continue on with it.
Yeah.
Obviously this is all predicated on vaccinations and, CDC saying everything is cool. You should get together again. And we'll have to not do that until the appropriate time so we can actually do the show.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I think that I'm optimistic that this is a year of rebuilding, a year of getting back to not normal, but whatever normal is going to be.
Sure. And you keep seeing, on social media, you keep seeing people talking about how this is going to be like sort of a rebirth of the roaring 20s of 100 years ago. I think that is actually, there's some truth to that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you spend all that time inside, you want to get the heck out and have a party.
Yep. Yeah.
And I mean, just the stress toll that, being locked up basically has been for a lot of people. They're going to want to get out of that. And I think that facilitating such a thing is going to be something that people latch onto. So I hope that people come out and have a good time.
I have a question. Why do you think something like this hasn't happened yet? It seems like there have been, I remember going to EV shows like 10, 12 years ago that was just all these, kind of like homebrew kits and, there was people converting Scion XBs to electric, and I was very excited about that. I'm curious why you think this sort of just hasn't really been a thing yet.
I think that at least until maybe 5 years ago, or maybe a little bit longer ago than that, EVs were kind of seen as pocket protector squad cars.
Yep.
It was a very nerdy thing to appeal to you, and it's definitely, I mean, there's still a level of inaccessibility to a lot of people. They don't know enough about it. They don't know the ins and outs of how charging works or where to even find chargers.
And I think a lot of people, it's like, do I have enough range to get to work, and do I have to worry about it? That kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. So I think that there's been and to Tesla's credit, there's been a leveling up of what's been seen as acceptable as a daily. And I've had a Model Y for the last month, borrowed from a friend. And I got to say, it makes a lot of sense as a daily driver. It's a it's a perfectly capable daily driver for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really, it dumbs it down enough that everything is very simple. It's very integrated, and I would say at this point it's almost easier to use than a gas car if you're not, trying to get to North Dakota or central Oklahoma or something. Like there's
most people are not doing that.
Right. Yeah. For 99.99% of use cases, an EV with 230 miles of range is way overkill. So,
how much range does your Nissan Leaf have?
like 45 miles.
How many bars on the battery you have left? Like 8?
7.
7. Oh, did it just go down, or did you buy it with 7? Okay.
I bought it with 7. Yeah, it's 7 out of 12. It's only got like 56,000 miles on the car. But eventually I'm going to swap in a big battery. I'll get the 62 kilowatt hour from the Leaf Plus.
Okay.
And then that should get me like 270 miles.
Oh, wow. That's great. Well, I mean, and the thing is, like, you've always sort of been a proponent of don't buy more battery than you need.
Mm-hmm.
Has 48 miles been useful for you?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I have a unique use case because Reno is a very small city. Yeah. Geographically, we're down in a valley, so everything is within, say, 20-ish miles. So I can get across town and back, no problem. If I'm leaving the city, it's a minimum 100-mile trip.
Yeah.
So you've got to go over the mountain or across the desert. You could go to Carson City or something, but there's not much down there that you can't get in Reno. So there's really no reason to go there.
Yeah.
But, so for in-town use, it makes a lot of sense. As a daily, it makes a lot of sense. And then you have, we have the Buick Tourex is our other daily, I guess.
Yeah.
So anytime we need to leave the city, we would have plenty of, we would have a gasoline car for that purpose. Yep. But I think these days you could totally get away with, the last month we've had the Tesla Model Y and the Leaf, and those have been, we could go we could go across the country in the Y if we wanted to.
Definitely. So why do you think Autopia 2099 is going to be special? What makes it special, and what do you think is going to get people excited about it? And what types of cars you think are going to be there? What types of people do you think are going to be there? And is it going to be as when you think about Radwood, you've got like people dressing up in 80s and 90s attire. Sure. Like, do you envision something like that as well?
Yeah, if people want to play along, I think that's totally welcome. The idea that we kind of came up with was to have kind of like a Buck Rogers throwback feel to Tomorrowland or World's Fair style aesthetic. And so that it's kind of blending that retro futurist view of how things were in the original Roaring 20s or the 30s, 40s, 50s. There was always an optimism for the future.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I want to try to bring that back with this show, where we're rolling out of maybe one of the worst years of our lifetimes.
Yeah.
And I think it's time to be optimistic about the future again, So I think that you asked a lot of questions there. I'm trying to remember.
I know. I have a problem. I'm not a great host. I'm kind of like, let me just throw 9,000 thoughts at the wall. Basically, like, what kind of cars do you think are going to be there? What types of people might show up?
My hope is that all types of electric, plug-in, and hybrid cars show up. If you have, everything from your daily driver Teslas to, I was talking to Busy from Bisimoto today, and he was talking about bringing his 935 electric. It's a Tesla swapped electric Porsche 935, which is like mind blowing. So I want to have some of those like headliner, like media focused kind of cars that people want to take pictures of, that people want to get their picture taken with. And I also want to have like the everyday stuff that you can buy on the lot today. Bring your Bolt, bring whatever, to make it so that it's people are aware that, oh, this is an everyday kind of car. But I also want to show the weird, the wacky, if you built a Ford Pinto that has a forklift motor in it and some 37 lead acid batteries and it weighs 4,000 pounds. I want that car there. Like that's a nerdy, cool, weird thing to have. There was it keeps showing up in my head, in my dreams. I've dreamed of this car for years, but at Radwood 2 in LA, the first one you went to, Ethan. There was a RX-7 that was converted to electric with a turbine.
That thing was ridiculous.
A range extender that was a turbine motor. Like how cool is that? Like I want to see those weird homebrew craziness. As I said to somebody else, if you have some hydrogen fuel cell powered inline skates, I want those at the show. Like everything that's weird and out there, to show that EVs have always kind of been there in the background. They've been around since the car began.
Sure. Well, that's a kind of an interesting thing too, to think about all the EVs that were out 110 years ago.
Right. So there have been kind of, in my eyes, there have been 4 major waves of electric proliferation. The first one was the dawn of the car. There were hundreds of startups that were trying to get electric to be the main fuel source. And back then, you bought gasoline at your drugstore or at the where you bought your feed for your horses or whatever. You would buy it by a bottle and you would pour it into your car. And it was the infrastructure didn't exist. It was really expensive. So battery electric made a lot of sense especially for people in the city, because they could buy a battery, put it in, and drive away. Back then, batteries were disposable, like they are, like they have been for years in your television remote or whatever. So they would just throw them in a landfill or whatever. Don't really want to talk about that, but so that was killed off by gasoline becoming more readily available. There was a second wave, I would say, when gasoline became difficult to come by again in 1973, 1974, with the oil crisis. And there was a lot of small, startup-y kind of electric car and bike and motorcycle companies that were just like, oh God, we can't get gas, so we've got to do something to get to work or whatever. So that, or gas is so expensive, we've got to figure out another alternate way to get to work or go across town. And those cars obviously had terrible range. They were extremely heavy. They were ungainly. They were usually ugly because it was cheaper to make cars that didn't have curves. So, you get stuff like the city car that's a wedge of cheese. Or, there was some wacky stuff that was built back then. Then there was another wave in the 90s with the California mandate, where you had things like the GM EV1, the RAV4 EV, the S10 EV, I think they made one, the Ranger EV. There was a few different ones. BMW had one, Honda had one. In order to sell in California any cars at all, you had to offer an electric car. And it had, I think the goal was to have it be 10% of your sales, but obviously that never developed quite to that level. And then 20 years later, there was the resurgence of mainstream EVs. It was kind of kicked off with the Leaf 2010.
Yeah.
But Tesla had been building momentum. There was a lot of discussion there were 4 or 5 concepts from Dodge and Chrysler. And the Leaf came out as a daily driver. Then Tesla debuted the Model S in 2012, I think.
Yep.
So they started to actually become not only mainstream but accepted and something that people aspired to. A Model S was $120,000 or $130,000. It still is, but it was a pricey thing, so only really wealthy people had it. And so then people who didn't have money or didn't have quite as much money were like, oh, I need to get me one of those. So I think that, and then we're still on that wave of, obviously things have progressed from there. Tesla's sold over 1 million cars. Nissan sold 500,000 Leafs in 10 years.
Yeah.
So they're getting there. It's, Europe is seeing like 20% adoption rate of EVs.
Yeah.
And in the US, we're seeing like 2%. So it's still a long ways from, from being there.
It doesn't seem that way like in Southern California, especially because you drive down any street in almost any city and like you'll see 3 Teslas in various S's, 3s, Y's, whatever.
Well, allegedly, Tesla doesn't publish any like individual numbers on what they're like. They don't split up 3 and Y, and they don't split up X and S. But allegedly, the Y is 75% of Tesla's current new car sales.
Oh. Yeah, I do see a lot of them. I mean,
they're everywhere.
They're everywhere. There are a lot of 3. I think there's like
we probably like the 3 of us probably have a higher percentage. A bias that we see a lot more of them because one, I live in Reno and Tesla is like 30 miles east of here.
Yeah.
So they've got a big battery plant. So there's a ton of Tesla people here in town
there you go.
that work for them and drives them. Southern California is one of their biggest markets globally. I think that's Southern California or LA County is something like 12 or 13% adoption rate for EVs, which makes sense because they evolved from Prius buyers.
Yep,
exactly.
So
don't see any 2021 Priuses running around with the updated facelift and stuff they have. I never see them. I see a ton of Teslas, but no brand new Priuses.
Well, they're selling RAV4 hybrids and RAV. That's what people are buying now.
RAV4 hybrids.
RAV4 Prime is selling faster than they can make it.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
Well, cool. I mean, I think the last time you were on, we were on the EV thing again, and I was like really uppity about talking like how much I really, really wanted to get like an i3, a BMW i3, because my commute is 9 miles each way. So even if it was like a super low, like old battery in the thing, it would still be like the perfect daily driver. And like, I still think that way, but I got to tell
i3s are cool.
They are, but they are not as cool as a Nissan Leaf on 3-spoke wheels. I mean,
how many? I kind of want to know how many Nissan Leafs are on 3-spoke wheels.
I want to know. Yeah, I've never.
Not many.
Well, or modified. Like that's the thing. Like you talk about
it's a good point.
Like the beginning of like the hot rod culture, but for EVs, and this truly is it. And here you are, Mr. Bradley.
Well, we have to have at least one modified Leaf at the show.
Yeah, but there's some.
Now I got to figure out how to get it to Los Angeles because with 50 miles of range, it's going to take forever.
Just tow it. Nobody will know. It's going to be.
Honestly, my idea is to talk to Nissan and try and get an Aria and tow it with an Aria.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. No, I mean, but that's kind of the thing. Like. It's like my philosophy, like who the hell modifies a Honda Fit or who the hell wants to modify a Daihatsu Charade? But it's the same thing. Like who wants to modify a Nissan Leaf? Well, if I had a Nissan Leaf, I sure as hell would. I'd be like, no, that thing needs to be, lower it down a little bit. We need to put some 3 spokes on it.
Dude,
and
you have to lower it, right?
I'm gonna lower it.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
it's like a dump truck. I'm putting it on airbags.
Oh
Yes.
hell yeah! See, that's gonna.
Just hopefully it doesn't end up like your Audi, where you basically ruin the car and you never want to drive it.
Well, I think dynamically it's different because the Audi should actually be fun to drive, whereas the Leaf doesn't really have to be that fun to drive.
Yeah,
Sure. Well, and I mean, it's
look cool. That's the thing. And be
Style over function
In the
is
place-
certainly more important.
Yeah,
But I think a Leaf is somewhat fun. It's relatively
bad.
quick,
Yeah.
you know.
They're not bad.
Yeah.
I usually drive in eco mode because I don't have a lot of range to begin with. But yeah, when you really put it down, it's got some pep.
Yeah.
I think it was rated at 9.9 seconds to 60, but I think it actually does like 6.5.
That's
Interesting. Yeah.
6.5. That's like 4 or 5 seconds faster to 60 than my Fit, and not that my Fit's a freaking race car, but like that's quite a bit quicker. And
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what is the Fit horsepower?
138, I guess, is what the brochure says. So probably like 110 maybe at the wheels, but but they like
so it's about that, I would say. The Leaf I think was rated at 145 or something like that.
Right.
So, but it's got the torque,
230 some odd pound-feet of torque in the thing.
Exactly.
Instantaneous. So
available from zero. It'll do a burnout like that.
See, more people need to be getting into this, and we've mentioned some of the people that are doing swaps, and I'm personally seeing it myself. I mean, I work for a company that caters to the vintage BMW market, and the thing that's going around in everybody's mouth is like, hey, did you see this person Tesla swapped like this E3 or E9? Did you hear about the O2 that's got a Tesla swap in it? And it's like,
there's a guy that I follow on social media, Tesla Bimmer.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I follow him too. Yep.
Dude, I mean, I know him through the Send Cut Send here in Reno, but he buys a lot of his custom cut parts from them. But yeah, that's a cool project.
Yeah,
Did you see his most recent thing where the motor was causing so much torque that it was rippling his rear fender?
It's pretty
like under acceleration, it was actually like bending the fender.
It's pretty insane. You think about some of these, like that is kind of like the engineering side of things that are going to be really interesting. Some of these older cars, like in my case, through my knowledge, we'll talk like old vintage BMW. So like year 2002, for example, these chassis are 50 plus, almost 50 years old in the majority of them, and you're putting in a modern drivetrain that is quadruple the amount of power the thing was supposed to have, and
you just got to go and like redo all of the welds everywhere.
You got there's a lot of modifications, but the thing is, when it's done, it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun.
Totally,
I think that's something worth kind of exploring a little bit. There's companies like EV West that are doing stuff with 911s and Volkswagens and
Beetles. Yeah.
And
they got Beetles that'll do burnouts all day long.
Yeah. And there's people that have there's a couple of people I follow on YouTube that have done with the vans, the Volkswagen vans, combis, and then I think the thing that is sort of missing is that there's not a lot of accessibility yet for people like me that want to do like a Nissan Leaf swap. It's still a little nerdy for me. There's still a little bit of like, it's not just mechanical knowledge. It's like code. You got to you got to have this EV motor controller that you have to understand the code, and you have to have custom code written for it so you can pull it out of a Leaf and you can run it in. I have a bunch of crappy cars that I love to swap out the ICE motors. I think I was talking about this with you, Brad. I've got that Lexus GS300, that fine luxury automobile from the 90s that needs valve seals, and I put a bunch of money into it and it still runs like shit. So, I would love to do an EV swap on that, but it's just a little bit beyond, I'm pretty stupid when it comes to mechanical things anyway, but this is even a little bit beyond that. So, that's the one thing I'm curious about, how you see where this is going. Is this going to become a little bit more mainstream for people to be able to do these swaps easily and not spend a ton of money? Because like you look at the EV West stuff, it's pricey.
It is. It is. I think part of the problem is right now the cars are still pricey.
Yeah.
You know, they're pulling
Yeah.
Tesla motors out of $70,000, $80,000 cars.
Sure.
So they're not yet like Ford Focus level.
Yep.
You know, even a Leaf is $35,000. You know, so
Sure.
you got to wait for somebody to crash it before you can even get the motor, and then you're still spending, you know, $10,000 for motor and batteries, sometimes even more.
Yep.
So yes, I think there's a level of accessibility in that, because if you think about it, like to get that much power out of a small block Chevy, you're probably going to spend about the same amount of money.
Yeah.
It's going to be a $20,000 motor. It's not going to be a junkyard, you know, 5.3 truck motor or whatever. So there is that. I mean, the mechanicals of it will always be a level beyond what most people are capable of.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you understand the physical characteristics of swapping an engine, you know, of engineering a complete engine swap, say from, I don't know, if you were putting a Lexus V8 in your Scion
Sure.
XB,
Yeah.
you know, you're mounting it in the front and you're putting drive to the wheels in the back. Like, people do stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's a level above what even a normal mechanic would do.
Sure.
So I think if you're engineering a car to accept a motor that it was never built to accept, you've got part of it. The other part is figuring out the electrical part of it.
Sure.
And a lot of that, especially with Tesla stuff, you can't really tune it.
Yeah.
So you just use the stock stuff and trick it into thinking that it's in a Tesla, and it doesn't know the difference. So there is stuff that can, you know, there is open source code where you can change, you know, inverters and reprogram, you know, to have more power or to come on earlier or whatever. But for the most part, especially the Tesla stuff, is kind of, I don't want to say plug and play, but it is a little bit plug and play.
Yeah, I guess one of the reasons why I'm thinking about it personally is that, you know, obviously as a fan of vehicles from, you know, older vehicles from the 80s and 90s, I know that parts are getting harder to find. My Mitsubishi Galant has a transmission issue that nobody knows anything about this car. You know, you can talk to anybody. There's maybe like 4 people on a forum somewhere that know about this car and know exactly how I can fix it. You can't buy rebuild kits. It's like, there's so much about these vehicles that are just, you know, they were built to be disposable. And I think it would be great if there was just at some point a little bit more accessibility where you can find a way to save some of these old cars by swapping in electric drivetrains.
So I do think, to that point, I do think it is going to get easier. It probably won't get a ton easier for like 10 more years. for probably like 10 more years, is my thought. Because one, as the price of batteries goes down, the price of cars will come down. Of new electric cars. So there will be more of them on the road. So more mechanics will learn how to fix them. 2, as the cars get cheaper, the components get cheaper. So there will be a larger proliferation of motors and batteries and that kind of stuff in junkyards and available on eBay, and people parting them out and stuff like that. And I think as they become more normalized and more people have them and more people are working on them and getting the training to work on them, there will be a point where it kind of flips, where it's easier to work on them. You know, there are fewer moving parts. There are, you know, it's just, if you understand the fundamentals of putting a motor, attaching it to some batteries and making it go, you can probably figure out most of it.
Sure. Well, yeah, exactly. And it definitely, I could see, like you said, in 10 years or so, it would be great if there was some sort of platform or some sort of system or mechanics that were actually out there, or companies that were formed that specialized in converting ICE cars to electric. I think that's another environmental thing to look at. You're looking at all these new cars that are being built every single year, and there's plenty of perfectly decent chassis that could be swapped to EV. So that's, I think when you look at a lot of people buy electric vehicles because the environmental impact, looking at that is generally less than a gas car if you're factoring in batteries and greenhouse gases and all that. So being able to, go ahead.
I was just going to that. I will say, in the places where more people are buying more electric cars, stuff like that already exists.
Sure.
In the UK, I know of like 4 or 5 shops that all they do is specialize in converting old cars to electric.
Yep.
There are a few of them in the US, but not many. There's like Rich Rebuilds has a couple of shops on the East Coast, and they do Tesla repair and service and stuff like that. But they're doing some swaps, and they're doing some like they converted a 2-wheel drive Tesla to all-wheel drive. Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Literally adding another motor that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that's starting to come out of the depths of the universe, and I think that as I don't want to toot my own horn, but like you've seen people and a resurgence of interest in 80s and 90s cars, and I'm not saying that that's because of Radwood, but I think that it helped develop it in the consciousness of car culture.
It helped make people realize that they're all kind of into the same thing, and that it was a thing. Yeah.
Right. There was always the enthusiasm.
Yep.
We kind of gave people an excuse for it to be cool again.
Yep.
There's always been people who are obsessed with Ford EXPs, but now they have a place to
raising my hand.
Now they have a place to go to connect with other people who get it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think that Autopia 2099 has the potential to do kind of the same thing with EVs. It has an opportunity to push it forward in the consciousness of car culture in the US. And maybe it'll give somebody just the jump that they need to finish their electric swap, or to figure out how to do it, or whatever. And if it does, that's awesome. That's exactly why I want to do something like this.
Sure. Well, it certainly makes me feel like I can't go to Autopia 2099 in December without having some sort of EV swapped car from my collection. So I have to get my act together.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been trying to get off my ass and swap an electric motor into something for like 3 years now. So I'm just, I wish you luck in your
It's not going to happen. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a Nissan Leaf. I'm going to put 3 spokes on it. I'm going to lower it, and I'm going to try to upstage your car.
We'll show up and park next to each other.
Hard park next to each other. Dumped leaves on 3 spokes. It's going to be awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we're it's the leaves have fallen from the trees or whatever.
Ooh.
There you go. You're a wordsmith.
Air out.
Well, that's cool. That's awesome. It sounds just like what people don't know they want, but they'll know they want it once they see it. They're gonna be like,
I think
the whole show is in itself like you said, jumpstarting somebody's idea for an EV swap. And we talked about the older cars, like your Galant that needs a transmission. Well, maybe this is going to be the thing, and somebody's going to have the next startup, and then in 10 years from now, you can go into the Summit catalog, and there's your 4-cylinder front wheel drive transverse engine swap kit for whatever the hell
I don't even think it's going to take 10 years for that.
Really?
I think Crate Motors are going to start showing up within 2 or 3 years.
And that's going to be a huge game changer, because you think about the things that you can't get parts for, the Rad Era stuff, Ethan's Mitsubishi.
Already, EV West has a crate motor that bolts into anywhere that a small block Chevy bolts into.
Yeah.
Okay.
It has the right mounts. It has the gear reduction box. Everything.
Such a good
you
idea.
take the engine and transmission out. You shove this thing in. You bolt it up to the output shaft, and then you put in some batteries in the trunk or something, and you've got an electric car. It's like, and then General Motors, GM Performance Parts, is working on a crate setup, like from factory with
awesome.
a warranty.
That's so cool.
Stuff.
That's so cool. I guess that, like I was saying, that the only thing is, these older, 30-plus-year-old cars, how well will they handle 250 pound feet of torque going?
People have been doing that for years, though.
Yeah.
I mean, how many 2002s have you seen with current M3 motors?
Yeah, no, that is true. I guess
they're not built for it, but that's a hot run.
A lot of stuff breaks, but it's sure it's fun.
Yeah. And that's actually kind of, you think about the hot rod aspect of it. That's like the thing that makes it cool. But I also sort of just think about, like, at some point, wouldn't it be great if you could, for not a whole lot of money, you could take your 2002 Toyota Camry and put an EV in it?
Yeah.
That to me is where the sweet spot is, to like make this thing, kind of just completely, not only mainstream, but really to help kind of like continue old cars to last longer than they do, because EVs last longer than gas cars.
Yeah,
at least as far as
there's fewer moving parts. You don't have to service them. They just work.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. I don't know about an O2 Camry. I think those things don't die, but
that's true.
But I get what you're saying. Though, it's like when it does get to that point, in 600,000 miles, when the Camry does decide to drop a valve or whatever, and it's going to cost more than the car's worth, I want to keep the car, and you EV swap it. So I think it's a great idea. It's so cool, and like, I think last time we talked about infrastructure and charging and stuff like that, and I've seen, just in the year since you've been on and we talked about it, Brad, I've seen so much more charging stations pop up, even in this crazy ass year we just had. Like the Walmart across the way from my house now has, I think they had one charging station, and now they have a bank of them that's probably maybe 30 of them sitting over there, and I'm like,
Walmart has a deal with Electrify America.
Oh, okay.
So Electrify America is the end result of Dieselgate. That's Volkswagen paying back their for
their sins.
Sins, yeah, exactly. They actually had like a court order, basically, that they had to do something to further the proliferation of zero emissions vehicles. So Electrify America is one of the biggest and most powerful charging stations in the country, and they can charge up to, I think, 350 kilowatt, which currently there's no car that can charge at that.
Yeah,
but
there will be.
There will be.
Yeah, eventually. Yeah, that's the idea anyway.
That's kind of nice.
When you can charge a 100 kilowatt hour battery in under an hour.
That's pretty good. Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Future proofed, but I mean, it's almost like, because they're electric, it's almost like computers, and you think like you buy some top of the line computer, and then 2 months later the thing's an obsolete piece. Well, maybe not 2 months later, but it's very quickly it becomes obsolete, and it's going to be the same with these electric cars. I mean. Right now,
I mean,
the Tesla from 2012 compared to the Tesla from 2021,
it still looks the same.
Yeah. I mean,
exactly
the same, but
they got a minor facelift, but they didn't do
barely.
Yeah, I mean, the car's almost been 10 years. The car's been out. It's almost like their Nissan, and it's like their 370Z, right? It's like it just keeps going. But at the same time, though, it's just like, that's fine. People like the way the car looks, but as long as things keep getting better, it's like, it's like a phone almost. It's like, okay, here's the new version of it. Looks the same, does the same things, but this is faster, this is faster. So it's just
Mhm.
like it's just like a computer, and I can totally see that happening. And then it's not going to be long before we have cars that can, 350 kilowatt hour charge. I mean, you figure if they're at a Walmart, and you go into a Walmart and
Yeah, you go get your
spend
groceries and it's full when
spend
you get
20,
back.
30 minutes, and
Yeah.
your car's charge is full, and what range anxiety, the thing will do 300, at that time maybe 300-mile range, but you're just driving it back
They already do 300 miles.
Yeah.
500 miles.
Sure,
It's gonna be so much easier, and
Mhm.
I think that it's just insane in how much change there's been in a year since,
Mhm.
like that Walmart by my house is an example, but I've seen it a lot of other places too. A lot of the park and rides, like they have EV
Mhm.
areas. The college, the community college that's kind of close to my house too, I think use this downtime they've had with not having people on campus or students on campus, and they've put in. I drive past the school almost every day, and they've put in charging banks for EVs. So
Mhm.
it's like they're getting ready to do it. So that's awesome. It's
Yeah, California has grown a lot. I mean, the vast majority of charging infrastructure is in California,
right.
and I think of anywhere, California is ready now. Um, there's a lot of places in the world that have to catch up.
Sure.
Right.
You know, I've done a couple of cross country trips. I did one earlier this year. I don't advise it, but I did it anyway. And I was on a motorcycle, so I was definitely like socially distant. But there are definitely places where charging infrastructure just doesn't exist.
Sure.
There's too far of a gap between, if you're trying to go on a road trip or you're trying to
Sure.
get to, your grandmother's house or whatever, you either are going to need a lot of range or a lot of chargers. And I vote chargers personally.
Yeah.
But
Sure. Because it makes the cars cheaper. It makes the cars less
Exactly.
wasteful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've got fewer batteries on board. It's lighter. It's more fun to drive, probably.
Right.
That's the
Well, and
what's
that's
power.
and that's where the biggest environmental impact is in the battery. So if you're buying the new Hummer EV, whatever that thing is, it's got 300 miles of range, but it's got like a gigantic battery.
It literally has two of Tesla P100D size batteries.
So at what point do you say, okay, this is not an efficient vehicle? This is not an environmentally. This is not people feel good about buying that EV, but it's not really an environmental choice. It's not an eco-friendly choice. It's exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that's 100% true. I've always kind of been a proponent of smaller batteries and less range. Realistically, most people don't need 300 miles of range.
Right.
Yeah.
My Fit goes 280 miles between fill-ups, so it's like,
well, and that's
I
don't
fill it up every day when I get home, so it's
that's kind of what the thing you've been talking about forever is that people like to buy cars for edge cases. They love to buy trucks because they tow 2 times a year. They love to that kind of thing. So minivans are the exception, though. You can have a minivan if you just drive around yourself because they're always cool. Yeah. So that one, I don't think there's a rule for that one.
I think vans make sense, especially especially for parents. I've never understood buying a Suburban for a 7-pound baby. But.
Yeah. So this is it seems like there's a lot of different types of people, a lot of different types of vehicles that could converge on this show.
Yes.
I hope so. Yeah, that's the idea.
Everything from people that are just looking to make an eco-friendly choice to, people that are doing crazy swaps to the history of electric cars, that kind of thing. It seems like kind of a neat cross section of people that didn't even know those other people existed.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
It's going to be.
I mean, your average, Ford Mach-E buyer probably doesn't even know about a Ranger EV from 95.
Sure.
So it's an opportunity to both learn about the past and look forward to the future.
Sure. Nice. Well, so go ahead. Go ahead, Paul.
I was going to say, so one of the cars you talked about some of these like feature cars to have there. How high on the list would it be for General Motors to bring out a running EV1?
As far as I'm aware, a running EV1 doesn't exist.
Really, they're all.
As allegedly, I've sat in the most complete EV1 in the world.
Oh, okay.
And it's at the Crawford Auto and Aviation Museum in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
They basically, when GM deactivated theirs, they took the inverter and that's it. So the motor, the batteries, everything else is still there. As far as I'm aware, that's the most complete one.
Wow.
They're maybe somewhere in the depths of the Heritage Collection, there's one that could run, but I honestly don't know. Sure. If they did, I'm in. I mean, honestly, they should just put bolt running gear in an old EV1 chassis and bring that. Yes. That'd be awesome. That would be like top tier goals.
Yes. That's the show right there.
So would I be some sort of an honorary guest if I told you that I have ridden in a real working EV1 before when I was in high school?
Oh.
Do I get to be the grand marshal or any sort of thing?
Sure. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. In high school, we had. I was in.
You can wave the flag for the RC races.
There we go. No. In my high school, I was in this science class called Environmental Systems. I took it 2 years in a row. I don't know why, but that's another story. But I graduated high school in '99, so it was I think probably my junior year? So that would have been like 98.
Okay.
We have kind of where I live and grew up and stuff. There's a company called, I'm going to say the company's name wrong. It's super easy. It's like AC Propulsion or something like that.
Oh yeah.
They're the ones that did the mini E's back in the day. And I think they did some of the Scion XBs that were swapped. They're kind of local. They're over here in San Dimas area, but either or, long story. They had an EV1 and it came into my high school and I got to ride around the parking lot in a little red EV1. It was
so cool.
So awesome. That's my,
I am jealous.
That's my EV royalty story I have to tell.
EV1 is such an awesome thing.
It is.
I actually found vanity plates in Palm Springs that said EV1 on them. They're California vanity plates. I don't know which car they were on, but I bought them. So
hell yeah. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. But, the good old EV1.
Nice. Yeah, I'm amped. I think it's going to be a fun show.
Oh, yeah.
We still have a lot of things to figure out between now and December, but
like all of the things.
Pretty much all of the things. Yeah, we have a logo. We have a website that's not live yet. And we
Twitter
have
and an Instagram.
Twitter and an Instagram.
That's all you need.
Yeah, at Autopia 2099.
Yep. On both
Twitter and Instagram. There
is a Facebook. I am not really on Facebook, so I don't know.
It's funny. It is one of those things where I feel like the Facebook group for Radwood had such a big part of growing that show. Like, do you really have to go on Facebook for this show? Like, maybe, maybe you have to do it.
Maybe I'll hand that off to Ethan.
That sounds like a terrible idea. Maybe I'll hire an intern.
There you go.
Yes,
that works.
Yeah, but we're on social media. Go find us there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, there'll be posts about things you'll find interesting, like EVs, Teslas.
I hope so.
Motorbike. Yep. All right.
So.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for joining us today. Where can we find you on the social medias, Brad?
Pretty much just Twitter. I'm at BC Brownell. You don't want to follow me.
Oh, come on.
You'll be disappointed and angered. You'll be mostly angered, not disappointed.
Yeah, probably.
But you get to see pictures of Nissan Leafs or a Nissan Leaf on 3-spoke
Yes.
wheels.
3-spoke
Pretty
wheels.
soon they'll be lowered and it'll have a wrap, some sort of electric yellow, maybe.
We ordered 10 samples, wrapped samples.
Okay.
Ooh.
So we're trying to determine what color it's going to be. We've got yellows and greens and oranges. We're trying to go for like fall leaf colors.
Use all of them.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Some sort of stripes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Nice.
Very cool.
What about you,
The wrap
Paul?
will probably happen hopefully next month.
Okay.
And then I'll lower it sometime in the spring, before
Okay.
summer for sure.
All right.
Awesome. So cool. Very excited.
What about you, Paul? Where can we find you on the
Me.
socials?
Told me. You can find me on the socials at Paul's Finest Hour on both Instagram and Twitter. Haven't been too active. 2021 resolutions is to
Delete your Twitter? No.
I think
No.
yeah,
Post more.
Post more, yeah. No, I'm definitely gonna. I need to do that. So I got more stuff to put on there. So yeah.
Nice.
And you?
Mr. Ethan Tufts on Twitter, Instagram, and Hello Road on YouTube's. On the YouTube's, got a new video with a Mitsubishi Pajero. Got another video with my Ford Probe, which continues to disappoint me.
I forgot to tell you, I have a weird Mitsubishi in my
Yes, you do. We have to hear about that. This is
Yeah.
a bonus feature at the end of the podcast.
bonus. Yeah.
Thanks for sticking around, everyone.
After an entire month of EV, I had to go completely the opposite and
Yes.
get a diesel.
Is it the 4M40 and the Delica? Is it the diesel Delica?
It's diesel Delica. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Okay.
So awesome.
It's not mine.
Yeah.
It's so you had Brad and Andrew on as guests, right?
Yeah. Yes, we did.
So Brad sent me a text message yesterday, and he's like, or day before yesterday, and he's like, "Hey, a friend of mine is in Reno. He's shipping a car to somebody in New York, but he has to leave and go back to Canada, so he can't." Like the shipper didn't get organized in time, so the car has to like stay here until the shipper can come get it. Do you know anybody who can store it? And I was like, yeah, I can do it.
Yes. As long as you get to drive it.
Before I even knew what it was, before I was like, yeah, of course I can do it. Like car community, help a guy
Sure.
out. And then he sent me pictures of it, and I go, oh yeah, for sure.
I'll
So
take
it's like
that
a-
potato thing over here. Yeah.
Like a 95 Delica, and it's got like a 3-inch lift on it.
Yes, it's ridiculous.
All the accessories. It's right-hand drive, Japanese import.
Yep.
It was imported to Canada like 10 years ago. And then the Canadian guy that owned it is friends with Brad and Andrew, and the guy he sold it to is friends with Brad and Andrew through this,
Yep.
Mitsubishi Owners Club.
Yes.
So he drove it down from Canada and went on like a road trip with it as kind of like a last gasp fun time with the car. And then it was supposed to ship out like last week sometime. And anyway, so it didn't. So I'm hanging on to it until the shipper can come get it, which I don't know when that is, but went wheeling with it on New Year's Eve.
It's so
Sweet.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Had to put it in 4 low to get over some pretty gnarly
awesome.
stuff.
So cool. Oh,
It's an automatic. I think it's a 2800.
It's the same motor or similar motor that was in the might be the same motor, but yeah. Yep. Slightly I think the one in the Delica is slightly more powerful than the Pajero, but yeah, same motor.
It's pretty cool. It's as with everything, it's got quirks.
Yes.
So like he had to give me the rundown of like every time you pass off a vintage car, you have to give people the rundown.
Don't
of like,
do this. Do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Think road and third is bad. Yes.
Yeah. So this one's an auto, which was interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's pretty capable. I mean, with it being as tall as it is, it's a little wobbly on the highway, but not too bad.
All right.
Pretty fun.
very
Nice.
Cool. Very
Delica Adventures. Sweet. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, and I'm sure we'll hear more about the show in the next coming weeks. And looking Yeah, months. Yes, looking forward to it, and everybody get vaccinated and don't be dumbass, and we could actually be able to get together safely again soon.
Mm-hmm.
All right, awesome.
Thanks,
everybody. Have a good one.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Bye.